Okay, so we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year to those that celebrate. My name is Corey. As you know, I'm a developer community manager helping support our Community Builders program. Today, we're going to be having a very special session on the change in the governance model, the CDK. I'll let the team talk about it in a second, but I think from a community perspective, it's actually very exciting. And then this is going to be an opportunity where they're going to go through the details, but it's really going to be an opportunity for you guys to ask questions and provide feedback. So don't hold back if you have anything that you want to share. This is really a forum for you guys to be able to do that. So just I think the only request that we have would be to either if you want to either post your question in the chat or raise your hand if you want to come off mute and be able to speak, just so that we can keep it as organized as possible. We don't want people kind of talking all over everyone else, and we want to make sure that our our speakers here can easily be able to follow and respond. So yeah, so those are the two things. Also, a reminder: this meeting is being recorded, so we will share the recording to all community builders, and an announcement will be made on the Slack afterwards. I want to thank Hannah, Spot, Adam, and Nancy for helping organize this. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Hi, friends. Thank you so much for taking some time out to talk with us today. As he mentioned, we've got some folks here from the AWS open source team who have been working on CDK for a couple months now. We've also got Ayush here from the CDK team directly so that you can talk directly to the folks that are doing day-to-day work. Hi, Ayush. Good to see you. And what we're here today is to talk about a proposal that we have as an RFC for a contributor council. Hannah has been kind enough to put the link in the chat. Rather than talk through it, let's give some time for folks to read that pull request. If there are folks that would like a little more time to keep reading, please put something in the chat or set up a smoke signal of some sort to let us know. Otherwise, we're happy to start taking questions and talk about this. I'm going to take a deep breath and wait for people to tell me that they need more time. Okay, I don't see anybody saying they need more time. Before we get too deep into this, one of the things I want to sort of say up front is that the doc that you read here is not the only thing that is happening in the CDK land. There are a lot of ongoing initiatives around CDK to continue to evolve it and grow it and improve it and make it a better experience for customers. So this is just one piece. This is not the only piece. We're doing a lot of hiring around CDK. We're doing a lot of feature development. We're adding new constructs. We're doing all of the things that you would expect to see in an active, healthy project. So sometimes when people read this doc, they have been like, well, why aren't you doing all these other things? We are. They're just not in this doc, in this piece. So I want you to keep that in mind. If you do have broader questions about CDK, where it's going, where it's headed, that are outside the scope of this doc, we do have Ayush here. So don't feel like if you have a CDK question and it's not in the doc, we can go beyond that if you want. I don't see any questions in the chat. I don't see any hands raised.
I'll start with a question. Maybe I can inspire some people to, no one ever likes to be the first person. So maybe I'll take the dive here.
Thanks.
Can you go into a little bit more context of like what inspired this document? Maybe some background on like why you guys came to the decision that a community council is necessary for the future viability of CDK?
Sure. So I think that, one of the things that we're always looking at from our team's perspective, from the open source team's perspective, is we want to make sure that the open source projects that AWS is putting out there are sustainable, that they are well maintained, that they have good quality code, but also that they are growing community, that there's active participation, that we don't see any areas of concern. And for a variety of reasons, there's, a lot of open issues and a lot of open pull requests on CDK. And one of the things that we sort of sat down with was to see if there were areas where we could help make CDK have a better path towards community growth. The goal is to make sure that we're bringing in lots of users, which CDK was doing very effectively, but also to make sure that those users had opportunities to meaningfully participate in that community. And there was a lot of places where there were opportunities to participate, but we felt that one of the challenges that we saw and that we heard from a lot of other stakeholders was that they wanted more opportunities to understand what was happening in AWS. They wanted more ability to have visibility into the work that AWS was putting into CDK. And they also wanted to be able to have a path for community work to be seen by AWS on the other side, so that when there was something that they wanted to work on or there was an ongoing effort, they wanted to get that in front of the AWS engineering team so that they could have the opportunity to give feedback on it, because no one likes to put a lot of effort into something that ultimately they discover that wasn't in the best interest of the project. And so we looked at creating an AWS speak, we looked at creating a mechanism so that we could create a channel for visibility and also to provide a channel for community members to have defined roles to play in the CDK community. Up until this point, it was something where there were roles, but they were all being done by Amazon folks. And so we wanted to sort of grow that out a little bit and allow there to be some non-Amazonian participation. We're not looking to take the project and give it to anyone else. We're not looking to take the decision-making powers and process away from Amazon, but we did want to make sure that we broadened that and we created opportunities so that community voices could be heard, that the work they were doing could be tracked, and there was just general transparency around the feature process for CDK.
If I may add on to that as well, the CDK is such an interesting project because it covers such a wide breadth of AWS services. And what's more, there is such a wide breadth of people, demographics, verticals that engage with the CDK, not only in terms of customers and community, but also in terms of internally at AWS. Every service team is a stakeholder of CDK. A huge group of customers of CDK are actually AWS employees. It's a method that we use internally to deploy infrastructure. And the situation previously has been that there were communication methods, but they were different for each group. And so the information was spread out all over in terms of getting feedback, in terms of getting engagement from all these different customers, stakeholders, community members. So the reason we specifically chose something like the Contributor Council was to bring all of these different groups together in one place to talk about what is best for the project as a whole.
For those of you who are community builders, obviously most of you who are joining us here, from a community element, one of the valuable things of being part of a community is standardization. So, I think this is very important to kind of be able to standardize across the board. If you're a part of third-party associations or groups or union or taking certifications or stuff like that, a large part of that lends itself to being able to help standardize the industry and make things more uniform while recognizing things aren't always perfect, but trying to keep as much of an even playing field as possible. Any signs of life, folks? This is usually a pretty question-forward group. Yeah, Jason, there you go. You come off mute and ask. Oh, you lowered the hand. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, ask your question.
All right, so this is potentially a multi-parter, but the first part is just a little bit of clarification around the idea of seats on the council allocated to specific community groups. For any seat that's allocated like that, is that something where, for example, if one seat's allocated to the Open Construct Foundation, then the Open Construct Foundation is responsible for determining who holds that seat, or how? I don't know, if I didn't see anything defined on how that would work.
Yeah, so building that election mechanism is still very much in process. There are several ways we could go about this, and this is exactly the kind of thing. Well, we're interested in feedback on all things, but especially this. What would make sense for the community? To my mind, every seat on the council from the community side should be votable by the entire community, but the OCF is an organization and they may say, well, we're only going to put forward one candidate. So there's various ways we could structure this. Sure, just having them delegate or having the community vote on multiple people. But of course, that is determined as well by who actually nominates themselves to be a council member. Another thing we really want to do with that election process is have anyone who is nominated or who chooses to nominate themselves fill out a short questionnaire, sort of describing their platform or what they want to accomplish, what their experience with CDK is, et cetera, so that even if parts of the community aren't familiar with individuals, they can have an idea of what that person wants to do with CDK, see where they want to see it go.
Okay. And is that I guess with the current thinking, would that be more or less the same when it comes to like if a seat was allocated to an enterprise customer? Because I can imagine an enterprise wanting to work differently.
Yeah, I think it should always be the community or the individual nominating a person. We will work through various different channels of communication to find and source those people. For our enterprise customers, we have TAMs. So we will internally go to our stakeholders and say, could you reach out to your account team or your account to see if there are people who would be interested in engaging with this? If anyone in the community is familiar with an enterprise, a person who's involved at an enterprise and using CDK, I think a nomination could come from there as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, the idea here is that, the questionnaire that Hannah was talking about, will have questions like, do you work in an enterprise customer? And then it will be clear when you're sort of, as a community member, when you're going to vote for the members of the council, you'll be able to see, okay, this is an enterprise customer. Okay, this is a member of, the Open Construct Foundation. And you'll be able to say, okay, well, if, that's the seat they're going for, basically, that they will be able to do that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that other seats wouldn't be able to be filled by people who were enterprise customers, who were by Open Construct Foundation. We added those sort of seats into the council draft so that we would ensure that we ended up with some measure of diversity in that by design, so that we didn't end up in a scenario where we had no enterprise customers or no one from the OCF represented in that in the council seating.
Gotcha. Has there been any thought about, I don't know, explicitly defining reserving a certain number of seats that are unallocated or undesignated?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the community side, what we proposed, and again, open to feedback on all and any of this, what we proposed would be one for the OCF, one for enterprise, and the last three would be unallocated.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a question. Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to clarify something real quick, Spot. I'm sure you're going to do the same as well. So when we say community, we mean like big C community, like the whole like community in general, the CDK community, like the developer community that's working on this. Community Builder is just a program at AWS. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that, but go ahead, Spot.
That was exactly the clarification I was going to make, was just that. Yeah, and then I think Andre's comment in the chat about how someone can be, not working on behalf of their company. I think that in the questionnaire, we'll make sure that we frame that to be clear. Are you looking to represent your company in this seat, when you nominate? My thought here is, and again, there's a lot of open for discussion, so just because I think it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but my thought here is that the ideal state is for all nominations to be self-nominations. We wouldn't be encouraging people to nominate other folks that may not be willing or interested in this process, nor is Amazon going to just decide, hey, these are actually the people who are going to fill these seats. And we don't want to put our finger on the scales. What we do want to do is we want to make sure that we are using the connections that we have to large customers to let them know that this is an opportunity that they can take advantage of, and encouraging them to participate in the nomination process for this, because we recognize that enterprise customers don't often look in community spaces for engagement opportunities, and we'd like to try to change that specifically for CDK to bring their voices to the table as well.
And if I can just add, like for enterprise customers, for customers with enterprise support that have a TAM or a solutions architect they're working with, all of the existing mechanisms for feedback are still in place. Those still exist. So If an enterprise customer goes through their TAM and they get directly to the product team, that's still there. We're still taking that feedback. This is just, as Spot said, to get that enterprise voice into the council and get them more into the community.
And to Adam's point as well, we'll still be listening on GitHub, on Reddit, wherever opinions are made and shared. This council is a mechanism to bring people even closer than that as well. But of course, that is not meaning we're abandoning the community spaces that we already have and engage with.
Any other questions or feedback? Because we still have a lot of time, guys, and I don't want to take away this opportunity for you. And also, again, we have Ayush here, so if you have like questions that you necessarily kind of want to pivot in the CDK, there's an opportunity for that as well. So if there's like a technically focused question, as long as it's not too in the weeds, why am I getting this error when I do X, Y, and Z? If it's a question on the technical direction of CDK, for example, Ayush, as much as he can provide that for you. Thank you for the feedback. I guess in the meantime, while we wait for someone to either raise their hand or add a chat, I'll ask another question. In terms of people that might be interested in applying, what is like in this is kind of more philosophical, so I don't know. It's might I don't know if there's going to necessarily be like a right or wrong or clear answer on this, but like how would you kind of describe the push and pull between someone who has been like a long time contributor or participant in the CDK project versus someone who's like, you know what, like I use it. I'm not as involved in this community, but like I want to be a new voice to kind of be able to express where I think it should be going. How do you guys? Maybe you want to speak to. I guess I don't think you guys are going to be the ones that are deciding on who is going to be sitting on this council, but I'd just be curious to kind of hear in terms of that sort of spectrum.
Well, so some of this model is based off of other open source work that our team has done in a variety of projects. I'll speak to my own experience. Fedora has a number of structures that are very similar to this. And one of the things that we've seen in Fedora has been that you do get that mix between the longtime contributor who shows up and basically continues to do the same thing they were doing, just in more of a public, transparent way. And there also are folks who do show up who are like, I have some really interesting ideas about where I want to take these things. I want to put them in front of a broader audience. I think having things like that, that short questionnaire, that interview as part of the nomination and review process helps to make it clear, what people are hoping to accomplish when they join the council. That gives a lot of insight into making decisions about, well, do I want to stick with the person who's been doing the same old thing and doing the thing, or someone who comes in with some interesting, maybe radical ideas about where they want to push it. And ultimately that sort of taps into the community to say, hey, is this something that we're interested in? Is this a direction that we'd like to hear more about? I think it's clear that I want to make it clear that the council doesn't get to shift. No one member on the council is going to be able to show up and say, I want CDK to stop doing all of this stuff with CloudFormation, and I want it to just start doing everything with Terraform. Like, that's not the level of thing that the council is going to be responsible for, at least not in this initial incarnation at all. And so this is more about creating an opportunity for people to propose ideas, to learn about the direction, to give feedback on these sorts of directions, and to do so in a manageable, containable way. And then we'll see what happens at the end of that. If that ends up being something that is well received, that we want to grow. One of the things that's talked about in the doc is the hope that we would be able to have these sort of subgroups that take on additional responsibilities in the CDK space that go beyond the idea of features, that talk about things like what sort of structures for organization can we add into CDK that community people could play a role in. One of the things that I'm excited about is the idea to do more events around CDK, to have CDK participate at events and to do things like CDK Day and have engagement with a broader audience and have community be a big part of that, and not have that be something where, only Amazonians can do that role. Because I think there's a lot of opportunities for non-Amazon people to get excited and to participate in those sorts of things.
Okay, so I will kind of, I guess, I'm gonna give another couple minutes for people to ask questions. If not, we'll probably just start wrapping up soon. But I guess the best way to kind of pivot in there, and again, guys, this time is for you. If you want to say something, simply raise your hand or type in the chat, and I will immediately pivot back to a Q&A. So just kind of not, I don't want you guys to feel like just in case you wanted to say anything and now you feel like that you're not getting the opportunity, please continue to do that. Okay, perfect. My filibustering worked. Lucian, go ahead.
Hey, so I'm working for a company that has enterprise support, and I'm not sure about how many users of CDK we do have. Do you think that we can put that GitHub page, I don't know, internally, send it around, or I don't know, something that could potentially bring people to the table, something
Yes.
like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. Please share it with any and everyone who cares about CDK. We want everyone's input. And I actually had a message already typed to send this, but another big request from us here is that as you go through and read the conversation that's already happened on the tracking issue, again, I'll post that in the chat in just a second, please give comments you agree with or strongly disagree with, a thumbs up, a thumbs down, a heart, side eye, whatever your preferred emoji. We are using those reactions as one way to weight the level of agreement among the broader community. So it's really, really helpful if there is something you do or don't like that you just let us know through that mechanism, that tool, emojis.
Yes, all the material that is on the contributor console is public.
Okay.
This is not something that is only for the community builders. This is for everyone. So please do feel free to share this openly.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess what I will do, and again, just do what Lucian just did and interrupt me. I'm welcoming it, guys. But just so to kind of repeat and sort of synthesize this again, say I have been silently observing everything for the last 30 or so minutes, and I kind of like what I hear. Can you kind of synthesize again, like some next steps that you would recommend for people on this call or in general to do if they've read through the document, they've listened to your wonderful words, and they're like, this definitely interests me, or I have a friend that I know would definitely be interested in this. I'll share the document with this, but then my friend is going to come back and say, okay, what do I do next? What would you recommend?
Yeah, we, of course, if you have comments or questions or are supportive of the council charter as we've proposed it, we'd love to get your feedback on that tracking issue. If you are nervous or don't want to post on that tracking issue for any reason, you can please feel free to DM any of us on cdk.dev Slack or the Community Builders Slack or LinkedIn or wherever you can find us. And we're also happy to answer questions directly, and we'll collate all of that feedback into a central repository for us to, again, use it as a way to weight overall community sentiment. If you're interested in being involved in the council, also let us know in any of those channels. We'll track that. There is also a form linked out of the RFC PR for people who are interested in participating in working groups around various aspects the project, such as events, distinguished contributors, etc. So you can fill out that form and let us know. Also ideas for other working groups you might want to see come into the world. Yeah, just find us wherever. We all have open doors.
Yeah, I think one of the things that traditionally is a challenge when you have anything that's up for discussion is that you get people who are willing to speak out against it. And those voices tend to be louder than the people who are silently agreeing with something like that. And so one of the things that's really helpful for us is if you read this and you liked it and you didn't have any questions about it and you'd like to see it move forward, to do something to indicate that, whether that's leaving a comment or simply putting an emoji like Hannah suggested on one of the existing comments, so that when we look at it at the end of the process, we don't say, well, everyone hated it. That we don't want to assume there was a silent majority that was supportive of it. We want you to indicate more clearly that you do like this. This is something that you wanted to see.
And we look at the AWS heroes and the community builders as our trusted advisors out there. Y'all are the ones that are hands-on with AWS. You know our services inside and out, the good, the bad, and all of that. So the reason we came here today was we really value your feedback, and it's really important to us that we hear that. So I know I'm repeating what everybody has said, but I really hope that we can hear from y'all. And regardless of what that is, whatever mechanism it is that you do reach out, it's just super important to hear that from y'all, because we do really respect and value your feedback and your opinions.
And this goes without saying. And if you guys are hearing this today and you read through it and you don't agree with everything you're seeing and you don't feel comfortable using this forum as it, communicate that as well. Like, we as community builders, we don't expect you guys to just be like robots of AWS or or just mouthpieces of AWS. Go in there, share your reservations as well. Like, your feedback is valid regardless of your point of view. So do that, please, as well. I can understand if someone's like, oh, I don't want to be the lone voice of dissent on a call or something like that, and which is totally valid. So if you feel like you want to do that, just go on, have your voice heard. This is your opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we'll start wrapping up now, because I think, oh, sorry, Jason has something. For what it's worth, I really like the idea of the council, especially if it provides better, clearer insight into the direction the CDK is going and where work is happening. Ayush, do you kind of want to speak to that? Because I know you haven't had an opportunity to speak, but basically kind of speak to where you think the council will kind of be able to help inform on where the technical work is going.
Yeah, more so on the technical side, like from a product's perspective, right? One of the things that we always look to do when we are uh, either deciding on a backlog items or working on a CDK roadmap is like work with the customers directly to incorporate their feedback, their suggestions in terms of what matters the most to them. And I think the contributor council would go a long way in terms of just standardizing that process and giving us an open communication channel to the larger community at scale, where we'd be able to have these active discussions with them ahead of time while in the planning phase of our roadmap, incorporate that feedback so that we can shape it correctly in line with what the customers demands are. And at the same time, it will also be a great opportunity for the overall CDK community to contribute to that process and get better transparency and visibility into how like certain decisions are being made, why they are being made, so that when we have our finalized roadmap, it's much more clearer to the entire community in terms of what direction CDK is headed in and the whys. And if things need to change, again, this would be a great opportunity for us to have those conversations as well.
Thank you. And then I also want to make one other point, and then we'll kind of wrap up, unless someone wants to interrupt me again, which you're more than welcome to. If for some reason you're still skeptical of what big AWS is trying to communicate to you today, I'm reach out to me or reach out to anyone on this team. We're happy to connect you with a member of one of these that is an active contributor. I have two heroes, AWS heroes off the top of my head, who are very opinionated, very feedback oriented, don't toe the AWS line ever, but have been heavily involved in CDK and have been involved in this process, that will give you their unfiltered opinion on this, why it makes sense, why it doesn't make sense, what they think can be improved, what can't be improved. So for some reason, if you're just like, well, you work for AWS, you have to toe a certain line, reach out to me or reach out to anyone that's here, and we'll help facilitate to give you an opinion from technically a third-party source. And those two heroes that come to mind, for example, are Thorsten Hoger and Matthew Bonig, off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are many other people that we could mention as well. I'm sorry, Hannah, I think you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, that was
No, sorry. No, it's just a glitch. Okay. So I think we'll wrap up here.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem.
One of the things that we've made clear at the end of this doc is that this is experimental. We don't know if this is going to work in the way that we put it together, and we made it such that we're not locking ourselves into this forever. We hope this will work. Certainly, we did not set ourselves up to fail. But if it does not work the way that we want, and it does not work for the broader community and for customers, we will change it or get rid of it. And so encourage you to give us feedback throughout the entire process as we work towards, implementing this, and as it's going. We want to hear from you. So one of the reasons that we're doing this outreach session is so that you are aware that this is something that we really do want you to check on us with. We want you to look at this and say, this isn't working the way I want it to be. This isn't, there are improvements I'd like to see on this. All of that feedback is super valuable. It's not just during the RFC process, it's throughout the entire life cycle of this initiative. And so please keep holding us to task on this. Please make sure that you do share your opinions and your feedback as we move forward on this front. We really do appreciate all of your experience and your knowledge as we try to go forward on this.
Yeah, so we'll wrap things up here. Of course, feel free to interrupt me again. But so I want to thank everyone today. I want to thank everyone that participated, asked questions. I want to thank everyone that was listening with intent. And I, of course, want to remind you that this is going to be recorded. I will release this on the Slack tomorrow, and it will be uploaded to our private YouTube playlist. And so you guys will have access to that in perpetuity. Obviously, if you have any questions between now and then, feel free to ask any of us. Reminder that this is, guys, do you have an end date for when the feedback is going to be considered, or just is there like a specific timeline right now?
Yep, so we are in the midst of a 30-day period for community input. It is about 4 days into that period. We are closing feedback on February 3rd, at which point we'll take what we've received so far, collate or edit it into the doc, change the doc based on that feedback. And then unless we overwhelmingly hear people do not want to see this move forward, we'll merge it and consider it final, and then get to work on those elections and also setting up our first meeting. We are targeting early March for that.
And for those that are interested in joining the council, just think about it, guys. Think about adding that on your LinkedIn. Just one more notch in the belt you can add. Doesn't that just sound great? So anyway, I want to thank everyone today. I want to thank Nancy for helping organize this on a very short timeline. I want to thank Hannah, Spot, Adam, Ayush. I think Bill's on the call as well, who I believe was a co-author of the document. So I want to thank everyone, and please feel free to contribute. Reach out if you have any questions, or just move forward from here. Have a good rest of your day, and or good evening, whatever, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.